certainly we're here for the students, and we need to remember always that the impact that we have on the student experience and the student outcomes is perhaps the most important thing that we do. So to that end, I'm delighted to introduce a panel who's been sitting here judging you for the last half hour or so. We have a number of recent graduates, students who have had wide experience with PACE, here to tell their stories. Starting this end, Stephanie Hollins, who did a BA with a major in media in the Faculty of Arts. And she's been working since the beginning of 2016 as a support manager for a construction consultancy, is that correct? Is that a proper job, or are you going to go back to history?
I've just started a Master of Policy and Applied Social Research, so doing them kind of currently. Yeah.
Fantastic. And next to Stephanie is Danielle Cognetta, who studied a Bachelor of Marketing in Human Resources, graduated last year with a Bachelor of Commerce, majoring in Human Resources. And in your PACE placement, you worked at Woolies, I believe, and managed to get them thinking straight about their HR policy.
Some of them, yes.
So welcome, Daniela. Then Chi Lo. Chi graduated in 2014 with a Bachelor of Speech and Hearing, conducting a collaborative research study with PACE and the National Acoustic Laboratories. And now you're a PhD student.
Yes, I am.
Welcome back. And finally, at the other end for our students is Nathan Nagel, Bachelor of Environmental Science, graduated in 2012. And in your PACE unit, Nathan, you were provisionally accredited in the River Styles framework, which I'm sure you can tell us about when we get to you. To balance our students, we have one of our fantastic partners, and as Lindy alluded to earlier, one of our angels. Michelle Parrish is manager of the Aunties and Uncles program at the Wesley Mission, and one of our longest standing PACE partners. She's had almost 3 decades of frontline experience in social welfare, joining Wesley's Uncles and Aunties about 11 years ago. And that program is a long-term mentoring organisation that matches vulnerable children, young children between the ages of 3 and 14, to volunteer mentors who are called Aunties and Uncles. Michelle has managed Wesley Aunties and Uncles for the past 7 years and has been a passionate supporter of PACE since its inception. So welcome, Michelle. So I might start with the students, and we'll start with Stephanie here. Thinking back, just because you're sitting next to me, thinking back to your PACE experience, how has that PACE experience impacted your life since PACE and your opportunities since graduation?
Well, PACE gave me my first adult job. I did my internship at the History Council of New South Wales. I found out about that internship through chance, I guess, because Tanya posted if you didn't attend her last lecture of the semester, you wouldn't get the take-home exam. So I went to my first lecture, sorry, Tanya, and she spruiked the internship, and so I signed up and, yeah, did that. And afterwards, I really enjoyed the experience. It kind of gave me, like it's been mentioned before, my communication skills and all these skills from my degree that I didn't really know that I had, or had in a practical sense, I guess. So I really enjoyed it, and then I offered to keep volunteering, and Mandy, sorry, I'm a bit nervous. Mandy, my supervisor, emailed me back and was like, oh, that's great. How would you feel about some paid work? Which I was very pleased with. So, yeah, from there I just developed some high-level admin skills. I was working on events and I was doing account management, and when I did go to look for full-time work, I got a job within a month. So, yeah, very positive.
Fantastic. So one of the 20% of PACE students who got a job with your partner?
Correct, yes.
Fantastic.
Hi.
Danielle, tell us about your experience.
Sure. So my PACE experience saw me intern at Woolies for 3 months, Woolworths, in their HR department. And as mentioned with Denise and Lindy, it was the first practical opportunity I had to apply the theories and learnings from university into a real work environment, and I guess expose myself to what it was like being in the big world. I mean, retail compared to being in HR, being in a company, a big organisation, very, very different. And I think I've always noted that my experience from PACE and with Woolies has made me more employable. I was a graduate with work experience in the field that I studied, and I think for our generation that's a massive advantage for anyone that's graduating. And also the skills I learnt through the tutorials and through the lessons that we conducted with PACE was that importance of reflection. What did I love about my time at Woolworths? What would I look in prospective employers? What should my resume look like? What should I be selling myself as a graduate with experience? And I think I then understood what companies were looking for. You know, there's this big, I guess, idea that you're a graduate, there's some sort of leniency, and there might be for some companies, but in really competitive environments, I think there isn't. There's too much opportunity for people to be out there and gaining experience, whether it's, you know, those ones that people are self-managing themselves or through PACE, that, you know, there's almost no excuse why you shouldn't have that experience, in my opinion. And now being in HR, being a recruiter, I guess looking to people that are graduating, I think, oh, how good would it be if they did have that experience already and that exposure. I guess my first job out of uni as well was thanks to the second PACE project that I did with a distribution and logistics company. So that landed me a 12-month graduate role. And I felt that, so I lost my space. I felt that it wasn't about selling myself as an employee, but as a graduate with some sort of exposure to working. And like the reflections that took place in tutorials, we never had the opportunity to just say, oh, we're just pushing papers, or we're just not doing any meaningful work. The work that was organised for us was a project. I completed a project at Woolworths. I was liaising with different departments. I was networking beyond what I thought I would be, which was something that I took away from my experience. And I definitely believe it was an advantage for me in landing that second or first proper role outside of uni and whilst I completed my last year. And I mean, since then I've had a role in a smaller organisation, Toby's Estate Coffee, which has had its perks. But again, I felt like it was my second or third role that I was going for. Having had that experience at Woolworths, having had the experience at Martin Brower, it was like I was already launched into the world of working. And a point that I would like to make is that I guess when you go through uni, you're thinking, I love this degree, I love the subjects I'm doing, I just want to get working. And then you think, okay, then you start working. What if I don't like it? What have I spent this money on, this time, late nights? But I guess you always want to exceed expectations when you're working. You always want to do well. You always want to be more employable than the person next to you. And I think PACE provided the opportunity to launch myself to do that. You know, I was studying, I was working, I was reflecting, and it was all coming together really well. And I think any opportunity that allows graduates to have that behind them, yeah, I think it's invaluable. I couldn't speak highly of it enough, and in how it's affected my job since then. So.
Great, thanks, Dionelle. I'll have a kilo bag of Woolloomooloo blend. Thanks, that'd be great. Chilo, how has PACE affected you personally as well as professionally?
Absolutely. So it's been an incredibly formative sort of journey and really placed me on this sort of academic trajectory that I'm on, I suppose. So I did a PACE project with the National Acoustic Laboratories. They're basically the research wing of Australian Hearing, the government organisation. And when the vast majority of students who do the speech and hearing program, which I was enrolled in, will continue on to do either clinical work in audiology or in speech pathology, and a very small amount will end up doing some research. And I'd already explored some of these clinical applications and been to the clinics, sat down, and it was sort of like, I guess I probably could do this, but I'm not entirely sure. So I really wanted to check out the research side. And fortunately, got involved in this research project. And my supervisor was Harvey Dillon, who is the head of the National Acoustic Labs. And many, many PhD students would give so much for him to supervise them. But there I was, just completely naive and not aware of who this person was in the least. But I think it actually worked to my advantage because I wasn't overawed. I was just, asking questions as any inquisitive student should. And I think that's one of the advantages of PACE. It's a low-risk endeavour. And it should really be pitched in this way where it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay not to fall in love with the PACE project that you've been assigned. It might be something that you don't enjoy, and that gives you such a head start in life already. That's already a great thing. So I got involved in this project. And for me, the application of research and actually having an outcome wasn't just awe-inspiring, but it was also empowering. It was this sense that, I can actually make a difference by doing something that the university has been already teaching me. I just never realized that it was interesting and had an application. So it was a small project looking at how we could make this training program a little bit more cost-effective. And that was basically ended up being my first publication. And from that point, it sort of pushed me in my own PhD direction, where I'm now interested in training programs for children who have hearing loss. And that was really a result of that project. I hadn't even realized this was a field that was being studied, let alone one that we here at Macquarie have expertise in. So yeah, I'm incredibly grateful to the experience that PACE has provided me. And I see great benefits, not just for the organisations, but definitely for the Macquarie graduates and all the undergraduates that will be going through this program.
Great. Nathan, tell us about your experiences.
Well, I did environmental management at uni, and up until the end of my second year, when people would ask, what are you going to do when you finish? I had no idea. I didn't really know what you could do graduating with environmental management or environmental science. The PACE unit was a river management course, and that included a week-long field trip up to Barrington Tops, and you'd study river management and interact with stakeholders, so landowners and farmers, as well as government and industry organisations, most of which I had no idea existed at the time. And that just kind of exposed me as to the kind of jobs I could get after I finished uni and gave me something to study towards. So I was just cruising through uni, P's to get degrees. But after that unit, I kind of realised I needed to actually study hard and do well if I wanted to go further. The people I met in that field trip, the industry people and through government, they were researchers, they kind of encouraged me a bit to do postgraduate or something after my bachelor degree, just to increase my employability or just go further with environmental stuff rather than just look like an ordinary graduate. So I did that. I did environmental science for the Masters of Research. I did a research project and got a job in the environment industry through that. And if it wasn't for that PACE unit, I wouldn't have been as encouraged to work hard, or I don't think I would have learnt as well either, because you actually did hands-on field work as opposed to reading lecture notes or journal articles. You could actually go and speak to people and see how practices worked firsthand, and that just really encouraged me to work hard and eventually get a job.
Fantastic. I think all the students have really given examples of how work-integrated learning has really been, for some, life-changing and a fantastic experience that's contributed to both your professional and personal development. So thank you for sharing those stories. Now from the other side, Michelle, tell us about how the PACE program has been useful for the Wesley Mission. How has that relationship contributed to the Uncles and Aunties program, for example?
Thank you, in a huge way. And I'm just going to declare this is going to be very challenging because I need glasses to look at a few notes I've made. I need my hands to actually talk, so I'm going to do my best here to hold the mic at the same time. But can everyone hear me okay? Apologies if I do wave it around. I'll try not to. But it's been a hugely beneficial relationship between Wesley Mission and the PACE program, one that actually started 5 years ago when two amazing ladies, Judy and Teresa, called me up as a cold call. They were very good at selling the PACE program to me. It was yet another call from a university, and I did have a career that has taken lots of students from lots of different universities over the years, but nothing quite like PACE. So I was quite intrigued by the way they talked about PACE and the minimal impact it would have on me and the limited amount of work I would need to do to take a couple of students. So they made it sound very easy. They were delightful. It was very relational. We actually went and had a coffee around a local coffee shop, and I was sold straight away by their passion and enthusiasm. And I think that's what I can see that's just through the whole PACE program, is that passion and enthusiasm. I started 5 years ago with 2 students on placement. I was so impressed with the calibre of the young people as they entered the workplace. There was preparation done. They were very professional. I say that they hit the ground running. They were really ready to start working in a professional job. I ended up recruiting one of them, and she's still with me today, so 5 years later, a super case manager as well, and she knows who I'm talking about if she watches this video. Since then, I've hosted 39 PACE Psych students over 5 years. So I need to make sure I get my numbers up so I beat David Cook with his 46 students. I'm aiming to take another 10 this year. So I started with 2, I went to 4, to 6, and then to 10, and I think last year was 12. So it's been an extremely positive experience. So not only have I hosted the 39 students, I've actually managed to recruit 6 outstanding case managers from that pool too. And I actually could recruit all 39, but there isn't the vacancies. But every time a vacancy now becomes available in my team, I'm informing the students to come along and be interviewed, and they're up against some really outstanding candidates with experience, but without their experience and with the knowledge that we have on them, it's just been sensational. So I'm also happy to say that all of the 6 I've recruited are still with me today. So for us at Wesley, about recruitment and retention is often very challenging to get the right people in the right positions who want to stay. I've also managed to build what I believe is a succession plan. I love the program that I work for, and I've been here for, say, 11 years in total. I intend to stay for a lot longer. But I've also coached and mentored now 6 other young women and men that really understand the essence of the work that we do, and that any one of them could be a successor to my role in the future. So it's passing that baton on to the next generation as well, which is so important.
Fantastic. Michelle, you mentioned that you'd liaised with other universities in your life as well. What in particular is distinctive about the PACE program? What's the attraction?
It was the shorter hours, so the 38 or 39 hours, what it looked like a week, was actually a much shorter commitment from me as an employee. Other student placements I've done were 400 hours. They were social science or social work, so it was very different, but they were a bigger commitment from me. This was actually initially seemed like a much lesser commitment in actual hours, and it turned out to be. It's very streamlined, but then once I actually got to see the rewards and the benefits for me are in recruitment, and then I'm able to use this as a source of recruitment, I feel like I gain, if not more, than the students do on placement now. So I'm very committed to the PACE program now and for many, many years to come.
So you found that the length of placement really didn't impact the quality of the work you were doing?
No, because we set up, I've got a list here, I'll walk through some of the things the students have done on placement. So one of the activities we did was to evaluate the success of our children's feedback forms. So we evaluate children every 6 months. And we had 200 evaluation forms, and the 2 students actually just compiled and broke it down and looked for key sort of themes. So that was a lovely one that they could do quite comfortably on a week. Then another 3 students in year 2 did something. They looked at a pilot for me. We wanted to develop a boys and men's long-term mentoring program, so they had adequate enough. And a lot of the students commit more than their week. They start the projects and they will give 2 weeks, sometimes even 3 weeks. A lot of that 39 still volunteer with me today. They are not necessarily looking for a job in this industry, but they are very committed to the work and see it as part of their volunteerism as well. So that's another benefit. And then more recently, why I've had larger groups of students is we have them to support our annual picnic. And we actually had some of the PACE team come and join us this year. 3 ladies, Linda Carey and I forgot that Kath came, and that she helped at the picnic. So, and when I say we have 400 children that attend this picnic, and the students actually do a lot of the fundraising prior to this. So this, over the past 5 years, I estimate that approximately $50,000 was raised by Macquarie Uni students for our annual picnic as well. So again, you can actually develop the actual placement as to what to fit your needs. So it's very tangible and adds value all the time. And finally, recruitment is just, for me, the icing on the cake. Being able to recruit these amazing young people after placement is just a very added bonus.
Fantastic. To the students, so you've heard today that, I suppose, two main messages. The first is the value of work integrated learning for students and their graduate outcomes. But secondly, the Macquarie approach, which is really to take an institution-wide approach and to make it compulsory for every undergraduate to actually have a work integrated learning experience. What might, and any of you feel free to jump in, what might you say to a student starting out now who's told, oh, you have to do this PACE thing? You know, what sort of feedback would you give them about the value or the experience that they might get? Danielle's looking at me, so I'm going to look straight back at her.
I'll start. I think the best thing that I could go on is my experience. And for me, entering uni, I was quite a stressed learner. So I had very high expectations of myself, and I really always want to do the best. And for me to achieve that, it was quite hard for me. But one of my main concerns going through my degree was how much emphasis does an organisation place on your overall marks? You know, do they look at your transcript and go, oh, credit average, or, you know? And for me, that was quite daunting because I knew that I have the work ethic to really do well. I knew that I knew my stuff. I retained knowledge well, but just in certain environments like exams, I didn't perform as well as I'd like to. So when this opportunity for this Woolworths PACE internship came about, I thought, what better way to add to my knowledge and my skill set to say, my grades are good, but I've actually got experience where I've done well as well, and pair that up to make myself a more desirable applicant to organisations. And that's essentially what I would be saying to students, that if you feel like you're a bit more of a stressed learner, or you're not going to do as well marks-wise, or you're just more of a practical learner, this couldn't be any better for you. And even those students that do really well in, you know, their academics, it's like, well, can you apply the knowledge as well as what maybe a practical learner would? And it's just causing you to challenge yourself and look at those opportunities.
Great. Nathan can't hide behind Chi there, so any thoughts, Nathan?
I agree with everything you said. I know in my field, experience is everything. So when at our work, if someone applies for the job, rarely will their transcript get looked at more than for a couple of seconds. It's more, have you had any work experience? What can you do? Can you do this? That's the main thing. They'll call your references. What are they like, hands-on, not how well do they do in a test.
Okay, great, fantastic.